A mental health disorder may be a part of who we are, but it is never all that we are. Sometimes you just need a hug. No words of advice, no outpouring of empathy. Just a hug. Be kind, be compassionate, and be good to one another.
Hey, everybody. It is your girl, Mama Deb. Sorry, I had to take a deep breath there because, as you all know, I have been gone for like 3 weeks and your girl is back. I had to take what I preach about all the time. I had to take a mental health break. I had to get my thoughts back in order. And that itty bitty little one cheerleader of serotonin that I've had going on in my brain for the last 3 weeks, she finally got some reinforcement. I'm feeling good again. I'm feeling confident in myself. And I might be talking a little fast because I actually have so much information to share with y'all tonight. And I'm super excited to be back. Thank you, everyone, for supporting me and hanging tough with me during the time that I needed to reset myself. I really appreciate it so very much. So, y'all, Merry Christmas. Okay, it is that time of year. And before we get started on the topic tonight, which is going to be anxiety, let's talk about a little bit about the time of year. Um this is the time that like we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect. Y'all, we're not perfect. We just really need to realize that and cut ourselves a break because what you actually should be aiming for is just being calm and being present in your holiday season with whoever is in your life for that holiday season. We don't need to be perfect. We don't need to have the perfect dinner. Hell, in my family, we'll be happy if we have some shots, some beer, and maybe a little bit of food. So y'all just be happy in who you are and know who your people are and really appreciate and love those people that are in your life, whether it be over the internet or if it's people sitting at your table, whatever the case may be. Just be happy and present in what we got going on for this holiday season. So that's my holiday, you know, little bit there. But it's so important because I don't think a lot of us really take the time to calm down and appreciate the time that we have with our families and the time that we are given with our families. So there's no sense in stressing us out. But in this 3 week break that I've taken, I had to take this 3 week break because I was stressing myself out. I was really anxiety ridden over so many silly things, so many different things were like a lot of it I didn't have a whole lot of control over. And for me, it was a process where I needed to really stop and realize that some of the stuff I'm stressing out over is not relevant in today's life. You know, it's not relevant in what's happening today. And I'm really going to let it take up space in my head or rent in my head when I got so much else going on. So what do I mean by that? And that's basis. That's the basis of tonight's show. Is like I found myself thinking back to when I was like 7 years old and I made a decision. A decision was given to me as a 7 year old, and I made that decision. And I was having anxiety over the fact that the way that I made that decision was based on this criteria. If I had only been smart enough to base it on this criteria, my life probably would have been better. For real? I mean, come on, Deborah. Come on. There's nothing as a 52-year-old, almost 53-year-old woman I can do about a decision I made when I was a 7-year-old little girl. So I had to learn a technique to let that go. And it has a lot to do with not only am I, we all know this, we're all in therapy, we recognize our trauma, we recognize who the people were bleh, that put the trauma on us. But I learned something in this 3 weeks that not only that, but we have to go back And we have to find what home feels like all over again. Because in my childhood, in my place where I was supposed to feel safe, and I was supposed to have people teach me how to love me, how to be grateful that I am me. Because now at 53, I think being Deborah's a freaking ton of fun. I love myself. I love everything that I'm doing with myself, right? Um, but I had to go back and I had to realize that in my formative years, my parents were at war. They were at absolute war, and I was being told to choose between the two of them. So it didn't matter whichever way I went. It didn't matter which parent I chose or who I chose to stay with. I was going to come out on the losing end of this. And tonight, I am here to tell you that I tell my parents, shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on the person who told me that if I lived in California with my mom instead of my dad, I could watch cartoons 7 days a week. Because to a 7-year old, cartoons 7 days a week that's a shit right there. Okay, that is the shit. And by influencing that decision, I had an entire life full of trauma and neglect from my mother. And that's not cool. That is not cool. I don't remember who made that decision or made that like enlightenment to me, but it is something that I will deal with next when it comes up. But that's where my 3 weeks of trauma came. I did not realize that the signs of anxiety are so prevalent and what they can mean to us as trauma victims. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is I'm going to talk about the usual. We all see trauma in a certain, we all see, anxiety in a certain way, in a certain behavior. But there are behaviors out there that we express as people who have anxiety. And the reason, and I say reason in quotes, is because this is all speculative. You can't know what's going on in another person's head. So the reason that we express them, there's so many meanings behind them. And maybe it will actually somebody will go, damn, that's right, that's why I do that. Or maybe they'll help connect some type of trauma healing in them, and that's the whole point of what I'm trying to do tonight. So so let's take a look at our trauma. When we start, with our anxiety, we start talking about anxiety that is related to our trauma. So it is very well known that people who have trauma do a whole lot of I can't sit still. And one of my favorite things to do now is, I don't know if you can see, I do this when I'm sitting there. I twiddle my thumbs literally. I pace, I rock back and forth. Those are things that are normal for, actually not normal, but acceptable trauma responses or acceptable anxiety responses to trying to deal with a trauma. So I'm sorry that I keep saying trauma, but that the anxiety that I'm talking about tonight is related to a trauma. So that's where we're actually going to go with this. And the thing that I didn't realize is that many of the decision making, the process that I have, is also based on anxiety, also based on the trying to figure out which way I should go to get me the least recognition so I can freaking hide from whatever's going on. Because that's where anxiety stems from. It stems from a place of trying to protect yourself, a place from trying to go where you can be safe, where you don't face the criticism, you don't face the critiques, the yelling, the trauma. And as one of my viewers just said, Purple said, it is actually the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's, good gravy. Autism. It is absolutely 100%. Those are considered early indicators for autism. They absolutely 100% are. And I have yet to find the research that will make this correlation. But I think that people who have the early, honestly, I think if you look at autistic children, autistic people, you're going to find that they had anxiety very early on in their life. But that's my thought process. I can't find really anybody who's done any research into it or any like looking at going, could there be a connection between early anxiety and autism? Could there be a connection there? I don't know if there is or not, but that's just my thought process. So in doing my research this week, or the last 3 weeks, I should say, I've noticed some things that people with anxiety do that I do. I don't much do this or twiddle. I do a lot of this. I do a lot of ring turning. Okay. Ring turning. And I've noticed now, and in theory, they say this ring turning, this, this is that you're waiting for somebody else to make a decision for you. So you don't have to make the decision and focus and have to take the brunt of the repercussions of that decision. That comes from you doing things when you're a child and being told, no, you're wrong, being yelled at, and put yourself in a place where you felt scared. So that's something to stop and think about. And this is the main focus of the research that I did this last 3 weeks, is that we do those things for a reason. For example, say you're at a holiday party and you're standing there and you're doing the usual. You have the mask up, everything's fine, everything's you're cool, but on the inside you're turning into this like, dear God, dear God, dear God, what do I do? What do I do? What if somebody actually talks to me? You'll notice that people with anxiety will shift from foot to foot. Not step, just shift. And the reason that they shift, in theory, says that they can't decide if you should stand up or you should sit down. Which one will make you the least noticed? Which one will get you the least amount of attention so you can just sit there and calm yourself down? So shifting from foot to foot. We're getting a lot of different responses, and I want to make sure that people are nail biting, leg pumping. We're going to talk about the leg pumping also, because that's actually a sleep habit of people with anxiety as well. A lot of things that people will go with leg pumping. Another thing that people do when they have anxiety is they shake their leg. And you can see my screen going right now because I'm shaking my leg. Okay. I'm shaking my leg because I don't know which route I should take, because I want to make the most people in my audience happy. I'm like, should I talk about A or should I talk about B? Where should I go next? And that is actually quite common, again, for people with anxiety, because whatever decision we have made as child or in our past, it is that one way or another, somebody's going to be mad at me. Somebody's going to yell at me. Okay. The other one that sits with that is this kind of stuff or this kind of stuff. It's the same thing. It's all about us contemplating what we're going to do next until we are feeling a little bit more comfortable with the situation. Purple says she incessantly massages condiment packets. And that actually makes sense because you can feel it emptying. You feel empty. Okay. And now it's open, empty, open. And that's the thought process going back and forth. What should I do? And anxiety, one of the biggest problems that we have with people who suffer from anxiety is that we have that constant indecision, because we don't know what is the right path to take, because in the past, no matter what we do, it's wrong. No matter what we say, it's wrong. Somebody is going to get mad at us either way. And that is something that I have learned in the last 3 weeks, is that is definitely a it's also a precursor, and it also starts showing arrows towards ADHD, because they are ADHD in the most simplest forms. And I'm saying simplest, okay? Absolute simplest forms. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying the simplest form is anxiety on freaking crack, because it's like 20 times worse than what anxiety could be. So could you imagine having ADHD and having anxiety? It's absolutely unreal. And Holy Spackle says that she had making mundane choices like what's for dinner. Yes, absolutely 100%. I am with you on that one, because I will say we're going to have this or that. And I know which one I would prefer to make, but I put it out to everybody else. Everybody else chooses what I didn't want to make. I'm like, are you sure? Can't you be persuaded to go the other way? What I should have just said, this is what I'm making for dinner, and y'all should be lucky that I'm making you that dinner and be grateful for that, right? It's not, and Spackle, I agree with you. It's absolutely not an irrational anxiety. It absolutely is not. It comes from, again, being told you're wrong on so many different levels that you can't even make a simple, needed decision about food because you know somebody's going to tell you you're wrong. You know somebody's going to tell you you're wrong. And in my case, when I make that do that, it's like they choose the opposite thing. I'm like, well, are you sure you should have gone this way? And then my family, knowing me as well as they could, are absolutely is they'll go like, well, mom, go ahead and make whatever you want. But then it puts me in anxiety again because I'm like, well, it's not what I want, it's what you guys want. I just want to make you happy because I'm a people pleaser, right? Um, Holy Spackle, you're absolutely correct. The three of them actually are what they would call a trilogy: the ADHD, major depressive disorder, and anxiety are the holy trinity of mental health disorders. Now, can they vary? Absolutely. The major depressive disorder could possibly be bipolar disorder. The whole thing is that um and again, Beck just made a really great point, is that one mental health disorder can lead to another one, can hold hands with another one. And that's why you don't find a whole lot of people who just have one mental health disorder. And this is actually something I was doing some research on also. Right now, autism is not on the mental health spectrum. It absolutely is not. It's not considered a mental health disorder. However, it very well, in my opinion, my humble opinion, should be, because ADHD, like Beck says, is on the autism spectrum. I work with autistic children. That is what I do for a living. And I have seen so many things happen because of the way that their mental health is being addressed. The other thing is that autistic children often have, or neurodivergent children or people often have many, one or more accompanying mental health disorders. So honestly, I think that it is, as Holy Spackle said, it is one just great big giant swirl. And I think that it comes into play no matter how we go. And it's going to come into play. So making things different or difficult to find a diagnosis for any of these things is just ridiculous because they do go so much hand in hand. So now I went on a tangent. Now I kind of forgot where I was at. That's okay. That's part of my um my anxiety because sometimes I have to concentrate. So I love that Holy Spackle neuro spicy because I like being spicy, as a redhead, so I'm always spicy. So I like that a lot. One of the things that I found very interesting is that what anxiety ridden people will do, or people who have anxiety disorder, is that we have a tendency apparently to put our hands on our chest. And I had to ask my husband, I said, do I do this? He goes, all the damn time. He goes, when you're reading something, or especially when I'm reading something, I put my hand on my chest. He goes, when you're talking about a heavy subject with a family member, you put your hand on your chest. I was like, God, I didn't even know that I did. He goes, yeah, honey. He goes, I'll ask you all the time, hey, are you okay? Does your chest hurt? And you're like, no, my chest is fine. What are you talking about? Because I don't realize that I'm doing it. So in theory, what they're saying is this: by doing this, either the your heart rate is starting to go up. It is actually a defense mechanism to slow your heart rate down. Okay. Or the other thing that we have is that something that we're doing, and with me, reading does this a lot, is that we are reaching down for an emotion that we don't want to lose. We want to feel that emotion, but we don't know how to get it out of us so that it's something that we can feel. And at the collarbone is absolutely correct right here. Right here. Any of those areas are absolutely 100% correct. That's what I'm talking about. And in theory, therapists have said that emotion, that something is stirring, maybe it's a conversation you're having, maybe you're reading a book or watching a television program, that emotion you're starting to feel, and you put your heart, your hand to wherever you're going to put it, and you want to grab at that emotion because it's something that you need to either have a hold of so you can know that you're capable of feeling that and you're good, you got a handle on it, right? Or it's a trauma that you need to get a hold of so you can deal with. Again, this is all in theory. I'm not saying this is an absolute science because it is not. It's all based on different people, and different people think different ways. But that makes sense to me because when I'm reading something, reading is my escape. I absolutely will read something or listen to an audiobook, and that'll be my escape. And when I'm at a scene where I realize I've always wanted somebody to love me like that, I've always wanted somebody to be that kind of friend to me, that's when my hand will go to my chest. And it's taken me years and years and years to figure that out, right? But that is true. Like when I talk to certain friends of mine and they know who they are, they'll see me in the chat and I'll go like this a lot because I'm feeling something. I'm feeling something that I can't convey because of my anxiety and I'm too afraid to do it. But the feeling is there. I feel something great for you. And I'm not here to say it's right or it's wrong, these therapists' opinion. What I'm here to say is that it is possible for us to start looking at each other at in a different way, because there are different things that happen in our bodies and the way we react to them that means something might be going on. So Holy Spackle said something about complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Holy Spackle, I actually suffer from that as well, and that is actually something that I do as well. If I have a flashback, and my husband tells me the very first thing that I do is I sit up, I put my hand on my chest, and I try to stifle a scream. And I'm screaming, I'm crying, I'm feeling something here. And for me, it's bringing all that crap back. I may not remember it long term, but that is how I wake up 95% of the time, is with that hand here helping me try to breathe again, because I'm so fucking scared. I'm so scared and I don't know what I'm dealing with because I'm not in the past, but yet my brain decides that now is the time that I need to deal with it. So another thing that also people with complex PTSD and people who have too much anxiety will do. We do this thing right here. We are trying to focus. And I know I do this. I put it at my temples. I'm like, focus, focus, focus. What I didn't know is we also do this. Trying to get those thoughts in order, because they're running around like a damn semi-truck in our brains. And this here is supposed to be trying to get us to focus. So here's the bitch of the whole thing. We're doing this, focus. We're doing this. Okay, get it together. You can present it. Okay. If somebody else turns on loud music, it sets us off. We're like, oh my God, I can't. This is what I'll do. I can't. I just stop the music. However, if I'm doing this, and I put on my music that I am used to thinking to, I'll be able to focus better. Is that not odd? I found that very odd. And I found it is very interesting the way the human brain adapts to what the circumstances in which our formative years were placed in us. Because for me, there was lots of fighting, neglect, that kind of stuff. So when I'm trying to focus, I'm like, just focus. It's fine. Keep a deep breath. It's okay. And then when I get into my thought process, I go here, and God forbid somebody try to talk to me. I have to lay my own stuff out. So I know for me, I have to put the music on while I'm still doing the focus thing. And it really does help me bring back to a focus. It absolutely 100% brings it back to a focus. Another thing that people with really bad anxiety do, and you won't see it from the outside, okay, is we bite the inside of our mouths. Suck in that inside right here, and we chew on it. Or we chew on this, the inside of our lips. Those of us who do display it physically so other people can see it are like this. On the lip. And y'all recognize it. I know every one of you does. Goes, oh shit, I've done that. I've done this thing. Whatever. But what you don't realize is there are stages up into it. You're working into this anxiety. You're chewing on the inside of your lip or the inside of your cheek. A tongue chewer, absolutely, Holy Spackle. That you're working it up in your mind. You're like, okay, I need to do this. And this is how I need to bring it together. And the more controlled you are, Clenching and unclenching your jaw is an absolutely perfect example, or your teeth. Those of us who are grinders in our sleep, there's again a theory that says that we're grinding because of anxiety. We're grinding because we're thinking about something that causes us anxiety. The thing is like the more you know yourself and the more you know your anxiety, the more you're going to be. Hold on one sec. One more time, Mark. Let me see that. Can you bring up Mark's Mama Deb? Is it possible that you have convinced yourself these mannerisms are the only way that you can do things and you have restricted yourself? Mark, I'm not going to say one way or another. I think it's entirely possible that maybe in somebody it is the way that you have restricted. That people can restrict themselves. This is the way I have to express myself. Absolutely, that is absolutely a valid thought process. For me, no, it is not a valid thought process because I have actually taken the time and the therapy to work through things that I actually now have a healthy expression, a healthy way to express things to a person, to actually two people that I trust the most in the world, and be able to just put those things out. And I write letters and I burn them. So I figured out my path. But is it possible for somebody else? Absolutely. Absolutely is entirely possible, Mark. Yeah, and that's the thing that Beck brings up is I actually in studying in the last 3 weeks that I had to take off because of my anxiety is when I became aware of half of the things that I do to calm my anxiety or to deal with my anxiety, because I had to take a good hard look. And I took a good hard look with with my friends and with my husband. I'm like, do I do this? He's like, oh yeah, babe, you do that. So I can't say that in the last 3 weeks I've really have found a pathway, Mark, and I've found an absolute pathway to get things done. The other thing is like Holy Speckle saying right here, these are things. These are actually, and I agree, these are thumbs up for us trying to soothe ourselves, trying to work through our anxiety. I never meant for it to sound like it was anything other than that. If I did, I apologize absolutely 100%. That it is a way for us to soothe and work through our anxiety, soothe and work through our mental health disorders. Absolutely, it is 100%, Holy Spackle. And I think that each emotion does bring in a different reaction from us depending on what our foundation was, whatever our formative years were, what we were exposed to. The other thing is like, you guys, I don't mean to get on here and make it sound like I'm a therapist, because I am by no means a therapist. I am just a person with multiple mental health disorders, trying to make my way in the world and sharing my experience to help others. Maybe they can take something I've done and learned that. I think if you can bring up Mark's last one. Oh, there we go. I brought it up. Mark is right. I have a very good relationship with my therapist. I do. And I see my therapist a couple times a week. And the last 3 weeks, I've seen him probably 3 times a week because I was working through some shit. That is not a bad thing. So I'm not saying that this is something that we should I'm not saying that this is like, this is how I deal with things. Everybody else should do with it. They should look at this. What I'm trying to do is empower us as people who have mental health disorders. I'm trying to empower us to empower each other so that when it's 2:00 in the morning and your therapist isn't available, maybe you can actually just look, you can look on my channel and say, you know what, Mama Deb talked about this. Let me just listen to this, and maybe that will give you the 4 or 5 hours that you need to be able to get in touch with your loved one or your therapist, so that you can make it through another day. Because that's my entire goal, y'all. It's not to say that I'm better than, or this is stuff that I spend my week on. Other than helping my clients, I spend a whole lot of time researching and getting theories on what we can do to help people with mental health. That's the whole point of what I'm doing here. So I apologize if somebody is thinking that I'm coming across as a therapist. I am by no means a therapist. I'm entirely too fucked up to be a therapist. Okay. I'm just sharing. I'm sharing my experiences. So let's go on to another thing that people with anxiety do. And again, in theory, this is what that might represent. A lot of us do a lot of swallowing before we swallowing and deep breathing before we come out with a statement, before we say something. And again, that falls on the fact that we are anticipating somebody not being happy with what we're about to say, because we're going to express a self need. We're going to express something that we need someone else to do. Okay. And taking that deep breath, taking that breathing, it's honestly, this is in theory. Again, theory is trying to hold our emotions down so we can get the thought out that we need to express what we need from that person that we're talking to. Interesting, isn't it? It's also important to have a person as a safety net that you can call at the drop of. Absolutely, Mark. It's absolutely 100% important that you have that person that you can call at 2:00 in the morning. I am the biggest advocate for being there for anybody at any time, anyway. It doesn't matter. I will be there. I can't be there for everybody because there's so many people on the planet, but it is important. And if you guys don't have that, I encourage you absolutely 100% to get that safety person that you can call at 2:00 in the morning, or you can randomly text on the computer and they're going to answer you. Because the difference between I'm going to take those pills and I'm going to make it through to the next sunlight can be a phone call. It can true. Let's be honest. It can absolutely be a phone call. It can be that one person saying, "Hey, you all right? It's 2 in the morning, man. You okay?" "No, I'm not okay. I need to talk." Well, that's what it can be. So, um, and Holy Spackle's got a really good point. People who say that they can be aren't really sometimes there, because it's very easy to say, "Man, you need anything? Give me a holler. You need anything? Give me a holler." Because that puts a responsibility back on the person who, in their time of need, is not going to be capable of making that call, or is so buried so deep in grief that they don't know how to reach out and say, "Hey, I need some fucking help here." Right? So that is why I say during this time of year, especially, call, leave a message, call again, leave another message, call again, and leave another message. Text them, whatever it is. Just keep doing that, because when the time comes and they're like, "I need help. I'm barely reaching out of this darkness," maybe they'll press the play button on their answering machine or their voicemail or whatever the case may be. And they'll hear you calling day after day after day. And you know, something is absolutely going to click. I almost guarantee, maybe not 100%, but I almost guarantee that something's going to click and they're going to go, "That's fucking worth it. That person called me every fucking day to make sure I was okay while I was dark. Well, I'm going to call him back. I'm going to tell him I'm okay now." And that is something that is so hard to get through to people who do not have mental health issues. Okay. Like y'all, I was gone for 3 freaking weeks. There was 3 weeks. Okay. And my two closest friends in the world, I even went radio silence on them for a couple of weeks. When I came back and I showed up, they're like, "Hey, what up? Where you been? What are you doing?" Da, 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 da. And I was like, fuck, I was missed. It made a difference in my life that somebody would say, "Hey, where you been? I missed you." So be that person. If you're going to be the "call me anytime you need me, I'll be there, I'm down whenever." No, show them you're down whenever. Okay. Those people need to call you and say, "Are you okay? It's been 2 days. Okay. You know the rule. If I get to day number 3, I'm calling the cops, man. I'm getting them over to your house. So if you don't want me to call the cops, you better call me back." And that's the kind of things that you have to be able to rely on. And it is so hard to rely on somebody to do that for you if you've not had the honest to God, "I have a mental illness and I need you to commit to being this for me." It's so hard. It's so hard. I can't tell you my own sister who I've had that conversation with, but it took me 20 years, 25 years to have that conversation with her. When I was like, "Hey, listen, if this happens, I need you to step up and I need you to be the one to call me and say, 'Hey, all right, enough, Deborah. Pull your head out your ass and let's do this right.' Okay. You remember who the fuck you came from and you be that person, even if it's just to pull me out of darkness. And then I'll come to the light and I'll cry and I'll deal with my mental health struggle. But I have to get out of the darkness to deal with it. You know, it's so hard to do that, but it's something we have to do. And we have to be realistic with it because, like Holy Spackle said, it's very easy to say, I'm here for you. But to do it is another fucking thing because it's almost like a job. And that weighs heavy on those of us who have mental illness, who are that person for another person with mental illness. You have to realize how to coexist and to balance that together, if that makes sense. Because if we don't, we're all going to lose in this game. We're not going to be here for each other the way we need to be. We're all going to lose. And that's not something any of us wants. If anybody's showing up to listen to me talk about this stuff, it's not something you want. You want to be there for somebody. You want to be that person if you can. And you're also looking for other people who can be that person for you. So, I mean, that is a very big concern in the mental health community. Let's see. Holy Spackle. Let's see what she says here. I'm sorry. I have to, it takes me forever to read them. I'm going to put this one up really quick before I read Mark's. Once I was honest with my sister about my ideations. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a rough one right there. Holy Spackle. So you were honest with your sister about your ideations, and then I was shamed and told I was selfish. I think that is actually and I hate to say common, but it's not common, but it happens a lot. Does that make sense? For people to say, you're selfish. You should be ashamed of yourself for trying to take the easy way out. That's coming from somebody who doesn't have a mental illness. I'm sorry, it is, because anybody who thinks that making a permanent solution to a temporary problem is the easy way out has not struggled the way we have. And I think but the thing is also is that being able to come back and say to them, hey, listen, when I came to you and this happened and you said this, and that really made me feel this way, for them to go, shit, I didn't mean it, was really, that's actually quite a big thing, because it actually brings, I feel, again, I could be wrong, but I feel it brings us to a level playing field, because they now understand what they said, what they thought was helping didn't really help. And they need to adjust the way that they are dealing with us and being our support person. Whereas we need to learn that we need to speak up and say, hey, thank you. I appreciate you trying. But that just did the exact opposite, which is very difficult for anybody with a mental health disorder. So, yes, absolutely. I love that idea. Are you okay campaign? I absolutely love that. And it's something that I've been seeing a lot in the stuff that I've been researching and looking into over the past few weeks, is that this time of year, when those of us who have mental health disorders, we get carefree or we get worry free. Life is great. Oh, everything is grand. That should send up a red fucking flag. It really should. It absolutely should. For me, I think it was last night, I went on a podcast or a chat session with some of my friends, and I was like happy. I was back to my old self and everything. That I kind of look at me going, what the fuck? I go, yeah, my serotonin just got a booster. It doesn't mean that I am actually thinking about ending it all. So I'm happy that the pain's not going to be there anymore. You have to be able to read your friends. And I know that's really so hard. But if you see something or something strikes you as odd, say something, do something, call someone. Even if it's not you, if you don't feel comfortable making the call, but they're a good enough friend of yours, call their husband, call their spouse, call their mom, dad, sister, whoever you're going to call somebody to say, hey, what's going on here? Let's make sure we're okay. And that's super important. And it's part of like, if we can feed that back into anxiety, because we're not always sure how we're supposed to act. And the way we might react might be based on what's going on in here and our anxiety, because our anxiety level may be at a 30. And in other people are looking at it like it's about a 4. So when we react to a 30 in our own brain, some people say, oh, it's an overreaction, what have you. So saying that to somebody, or me telling you go call somebody, I can see where that would cause absolute reaction, absolute anxiety, because we're not sure if it's level 30 or level 3. And I'm not sure the answer to that. I wish I could tell you what the answer is to that, but I can't because I haven't figured that one out myself. So, oh, I'm just reading something Farron said to, let's see, can you bring up cause? Let me, I can do this here. I actually, Ben taught me how to bring up my stuff. So, not Ben, I'm sorry, Beck did. On the topic of anxiety, with me at on stream, people pleasing. Yes. And Kyle, you and I have actually had this conversation at length. I'm a people pleaser too. I will go out of my way. I will spend my last dollar to make somebody else happy, and I'll go without food for 3 days because that lessens my anxiety until I get hungry, and then I berate myself for giving up my last dollar. So people pleasing is, again, a sign of anxiety. Those of us who would rather go without than make waves, because when we've made waves in the past, it has been an absolute, for lack of a better word, a shit show. Because we've made waves and everybody's like, well, can't you be grateful? Can't you just be quiet and accept it for once? When in actuality, it's not that we can't accept it for once, it's that we've accepted it a lot and we're finally finding the ability to speak up. And that is so difficult because being berated like that or being told you're wrong by anybody that we have feel like is above us, because we put a lot of people above us, that they're looking down on us, we absolutely will fold under the pressure. So what's this say? So many Americans are not trauma informed. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Holy Spackle, I have this issue also because I will go in and I'm talking to them and I'm giving, and I have a medical background. So I'll give them all this information. They're like, well, you don't appear to be in pain. And I look at them and I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, I can't decide which pain is worse right now. The pain going on in my head because you just made me feel like an idiot, or the pain going on in my body in a response to the pain going into my head. And you know what? Now you're making me anxious. And now I feel like crap even more. So my answer to this is my answer, and this is what I have to practice in my daily life, Holy Spackles. I have to actually, I'll call a doctor and say, okay, listen, I have this going on. This is the physical problem, but I also have mental health issues, and you have to be prepared and be aware of how to deal with that, because otherwise it's going to make me worse. Can the doctor handle this? And I've had doctors go, no, I need you to go see somebody else because I cannot do you what you need to do. And that's fine. I'll find somebody else. I would rather they be honest with me about having to deal with the whole package that is Deborah than being able, I'm going to separate your physical pain from your mental health pain. You can't separate them because my mental health pain feels like physical pain. Okay. You cannot, absolutely cannot separate those two. And anybody who tries is full of malarkey. Okay. Let's see. What did Shane have to say here? So, okay. Yes. Borderline personality disorder is absolutely a big, fat, all capital letters bitch. Okay. Because you never know where that person's coming from. And absolutely, Shane, 100%, without a doubt, education is the best thing that you can do for yourself, because you're going to arm yourself, and you're going to arm yourself with knowledge so you can understand where that person's coming from and go, okay, this is not a personal jest against me. This is not a personal, he doesn't really fucking hate me. It's something going on inside him. And it actually does help. And I think that it helps you maintain a good relationship, because maintaining any relationship with somebody with BPD is very difficult. And I applaud you for actually doing that, Shane, to make the relationship a better place for you and your friend. Okay, let's see. So Holy Spackle said something else. It shows up for me more in the body than expression. Yeah, because you know what person with mental health disorders doesn't have a mask? I have a great mask. I smile all the time. I smirk. I kind of do. I have a great mask. And I think that's something we learned because we've been told so many times, just get over it. Just let it go. Just smile. You can be happy. Yeah. Yeah. That mask is a firm thing that we do to protect ourselves from other people's criticisms. And I am absolutely 100% right there with you, Holy Spackle. It's tough. It's tough. Okay. So let's look at what Mark has to say here. Um, I'm absolutely actually, Mark, I'm in agreement with you. We've actually I did a TikTok because I recently expanded my content. I'm so proud of myself. Anyway, sorry guys. When I do little things like that, I have to say I'm really proud of myself because it was a big step for me. I actually just did a thing on TikTok on this. You know, this is actually, it's called the most wonderful time of the year, but it can be the most devastating, lonely, traumatic, anxious time of the year. So, you know, yeah, that's what we do as a, I think what we should do as a community of people who have mental health disorders. We should absolutely 100% reach out and check on each other. Hey, are you all right, man? What's going on today? You spending it alone? What are you doing? So I think it's something that we absolutely 100% that we have to join together as a community, not just as a just not as people, but as people who have to support each other in a way that only we can understand. Because Christmas is a really hard time. This whole time here, Thanksgiving to New Year's, is such a hard time. And for me personally, my brother, unfortunately, my brother was killed in December. And so he was my older brother by 6 months. Yes, before you ask, he is my stepbrother, but I've never considered him that. So this time of year is heavy, heavy, heavy for depression for me and heavy anxiety because I'm worried about my parents who are aging and all of that stuff. So it is very heavy for me. And I can't imagine it being something like, you know, the loss of a loved one like I had, the loss of a child, the loss of your innocence, the abuse that you remember because, you know, on Christmas Day, Uncle so and so came over and, you know, that kind of stuff happened. So I think that is why it's so important for us as patients or people who have mental health disorders to take the pressure off ourselves. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be us. And if the rest of the world wants us to be perfect without flaw, they can go take a fly and leap off a cliff. Okay. Because Deborah, sitting here right before you, I am a flawed individual and I have my issues that I am working through. But that's okay because I am a great individual. I am a great person. And I know all of you are trying to find your own way as well. And, you know, I'm 50, almost 53. It's taken me this long to figure out that I'm actually a good person, that the way I deal with things is okay. And it's okay that I went through what I went through. And that I think is the biggest message that we can bring across to each other during this time is that wherever our anxiety is stemming from or wherever we're showing those signs of anxiety, take a step back and really, really, really tell yourself, really have an honest conversation with yourself. Does it matter in this moment right here that is being disrupted by your anxiety? And for me, a lot of the time, the answer is no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I failed my fourth grade science test. It doesn't matter. Okay. It doesn't matter that I didn't go to nursing school like I had originally planned and I chose to be a paramedic. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. I can't change any of that. Okay. I can't change that my mother was very neglectful and awful things happened to my sister and I because she was awful and neglectful. Does it still give me anxiety? Absolutely. Every damn day of my life, it gives me anxiety. But the cause of it, I refuse to give the cause of it any power anymore because I'm at that point in my healing where I can say it doesn't matter. It just does not matter. So Mark says that, yeah, it is unfortunate that a large majority of people who have mental health disorders have suffered some form of abuse in their life. And when I talk about abuse, I'm not, it's physical, it's sexual, it's emotional, it's mental, it's neglect, it's hypercriticism, all of that stuff. When you're a child and you're forming your thoughts and the way you're going to be and what you feel at home in, all of that affects you. All of it affects the way that you are going to be able to go forth in the world as an adult. And when we have that skewed sense of what is home, it really affects the way that we absolutely 100% live our lives. Do I now think that I would have became a paramedic have I not been the people pleaser that I am? Because my main goal in life has always been to save people. It's always been. Do I think I would have became a paramedic? Probably not, but that's okay because I took what I could and I've healed and I'm healing as much as I can. And as I'm healing, I'm finding a way to make myself feel good about who I am and what I am. I'm proud of what I did with my life. I'm proud of the things that I've done. I'm unhappy with the way that they came to be. I'm unhappy with the abuse that I suffered, but that has nothing to do with me. The abuse I suffered, yes, I deal with the effects of it, but I'm not the one who caused the abuse. They are, and that's something I've very recently learned to separate in a way to reduce my anxiety as an adult. Because if I keep worrying about the person who don't ever play that, okay, I won't ever. I've never heard of it, Mark. So but that's something I've learned to do is I separate my abuser and the way I feel. I separate the two of them because I just need to deal with me and I need to deal with my emotions and my feelings right now. I will get to the healing and all that crap later, but one step at a time. And I think that's the most important thing that I wanted to bring to the table tonight, is that with your anxiety, you have to deal with it one step at a time. And if you see people doing the things that we've talked about tonight and they're at the holiday party or they're at your house and they're just not, you notice, you're like, oh, well, he looks like he might be a little anxious. Is it not within our realm as friends, family, whatever it may be, just to maybe sit down and go, hey, do you need a quiet space? You need somewhere you can go and just kind of regroup? Because I'll get you that. I'll get that for you. In my house, it is absolutely a space. We save one space off in the bedroom, and it is somewhere for somebody to go if they're overwhelmed. And then just go there, decompress, get back where they need to be, and and get set so then maybe they can face a little more of the family party. So I don't think that that's without outside of the realm of possibility of something that we could consider doing because we would some of us would like it done for us. Other of us it's not our thing, but we could have it. Um so Mark, I mean, what I'm saying is if only this hadn't happened, I would have um for me that makes up a lot of regret. And it's not regret that I can deal with because it did happen to me. And for me personally, just me, that is something that is not a healthy way for me to go. Some people it might work, but for me, it does not work at all because I start getting angry again and going, if you'd only been a decent fucking parent or whatever, I can't change that. I'm only in control of what's going on in my life right now, and that's what I have to focus on to get myself better. If I hope that's what you're aiming at, Mark. But so like I was saying, just take the time this holiday season to be aware. If somebody's having a hard time, give them a call. Even if you think they might be having a hard time, call them and keep calling them and let them know they matter. Those of us who are anxious in the holiday party setting, give them a corner. Go, hey, here's your corner. This is your sit. You sit here. Kind of we'll move the party around you if you need to, or go upstairs. Whatever you need to do. Make those accommodations that you would want made for you. If you lived in an ideal world around Christmas, this is what I would want done for me in the situation that I'm in. And make those accommodations for the people that you love, because I firmly believe in doing unto others as I would want to have done unto me. I would want somebody to care about me. I would want somebody to make the phone call. And I would want somebody to recognize, hey, this is not the most comfortable place for her to be right now. Let's see what we can do to make her feel a little bit more at home and more welcome. Because in the end, the holiday season is about all of that. It is about belonging, it's about being part of each other's lives, bonding. It's not about the $150 gift. What it's about is that somebody says, hey, I thought of you today. Today's Christmas, and I'm thankful for you. That's what Christmas is all about. That's what the seasons are all about. It has nothing to do with religion, has nothing to do with any of that other stuff. It all has to do about humankind and how we appreciate and show appreciation for each other. Wow. So, on that heavy note, I think I'm going to wrap it up. And as always, I would like to say thank you so very much for my producer, Beck. Beck and Kyle, I owe you a huge debt of gratitude for sticking with me the last 3 weeks and pulling me out of my being there while I needed to cry and help me pull myself out of my dark place. I appreciate you so very, very much. All of you who have subscribed and liked my channel and show up every week and listen to me, thank you so much for giving me a platform to do what I am passionate about, which is to make a difference in somebody else's life. And I encourage you, please like and share, do whatever you're going to do, subscribe. Please just get the word out there that there is a community out there for people who have mental health disorders, and we can come together and we can help each other through our darkest crisis. And not one of us needs to take a permanent solution to a temporary problem ever again. All right. Love you guys very much. And as always, you're beautiful just the way you are.
A mental health disorder may be a part of who we are, but it is never all that we are. Sometimes you just need a hug. No words of advice, no outpouring of empathy. Just a hug. Be kind, be compassionate, and be good to one another.